there with a man the same name as me. Nice, interesting fella and intelligent. And I heard from him what I'm hearing from other people, not NPCs or just like brain dead normies, more sentient people out there. And this is probably the first of my official alternative folklore videos. I'm meeting people who are looking forward or hoping for a Carrington event. If you don't know, the Carrington event was a solar flare that happened in the 1850s and basically destroyed the telegraph system of North America. It was absolutely catastrophic. The railroads were being built, and systems were being put out to the cities around, trying to bring the country together. And it destroyed the transmission systems. It froze the relays, and it burnt out everything. And you would have had relays back then, like that size, with like heavy coils on them. And the Carrington effect, the solar flare, wrecked them. And imagine what it would do to a microprocessor today if it could wreck something like that. And the reason why people I'm meeting who want the Carrington effect, they generally have young kids. And they do not want them growing up in this Black Mirror world. They do not want them living in this Black Mirror existence. This tech world run by the likes of Gates and Sam Bankman-Fried and all these other freaks all these other Silicon Valley tech freaks, the Zuckerbergs and all the rest of them. And they want a decent quality of life for their children, and they know that social media will take that from them. And the best chance of destroying that tech world, because governments will never regulate because they own the governments. Here in Ireland, the government is owned by the tech industry and the biopharma industry. Would be a Carrington effect or a coronal mass ejection that would not destroy the earth as such, but actually take out all the delicate electronics, bring down the internet, bring down the control grid, literally, and would take 20 to 25 years to get us back to 1950s levels. And it would be a catastrophe and everything. Planes would fall out of the sky. But so many sentient, intelligent people have an irrational fear, not irrational, irrational fear of this Black Mirror world that the tech industry and the governments are foisting upon us and the education system. And that's who's behind all the things like the sexualization of children and all that kind of thing. Now, this is probably the first time in human history where intelligent people, and I mean intelligent people, not highly educated people, I mean people have like common sense, don't want progression. That retarded site, I fucking love science, that has all these these NPC normies on it, who don't know nothing about science, but they think if they actually repeat scientific things, people think they're geniuses, those types. And they had a cartoon which was funny, but didn't make the point, and it showed someone today going, "And when I was younger, the world was better." And they go back through the different ages of man to the dinosaurs, and eventually it leads to one amoeba saying to another, a single-celled, one amoeba saying to a protein, "When I was younger, the world was better," to suggest that the people who say when I was younger, the world was better, are somehow always wrong. I got news for you. I fucking know science types. The world was much better when I was young. The 1980s, compared to today, was a beautiful, magical age of freedom, possibility, happiness, joy, the love of life, compassion, bright-eyed children, men and women with full, thick hair. This is one that really gets me, is why has hair changed so much? you look up until the 1990s, well, early 1990s, late 80s, people all over the West had thick, full heads of hair. You know the way they make fun of those crazy 1980s hairstyles that the normies had then? That's a myth that everyone had those hairstyles, like the big Aquanet things. That's a myth that everyone had them. It was only normies and NPCs had them. All the cool girls looked like Winona Ryder, or Amy Mann from Till Tuesday back then. They didn't look like that. That was like the kind of, the NPCs and the normies, the ones you'd be lining up to get needlecrafted now. They, the reason why they could do that with their hair, like remember Working Girl with Melanie Griffith, the beginning of it, they all had those mad haircuts. The reason why they could do those hairstyles back then is because they had thick, full hair. You look at old footage of New York or any city, men have thick, full hair all their lives. Now, huge numbers of men are bald by the time they're 25, 30. And most girls, most women have flat hair. And even if they're like in the tribe or anything, it's not. There just seems to be some kind of effect, and that's just one of the things that life was infinitely better back then, and that's why when you go to, I was talking about music earlier on. If you go to all the music I grew up in, and I'm talking about not even just the alternative music, I mean like the pop music, the old Madonna songs that I liked, ABBA, it's full of nothing but comments. But I'm 17 years old. I wish I lived back then. This has never happened in history where the young say that. It was always the elderly who said the middle age and above who would say when I was younger it was better. Now it's an unprecedented history where you have 17, 15, 16, 12 year olds saying, could you imagine what it was like that? I posted Cruel Summer on Facebook recently by Bananarama as a video that perfectly encapsulated the feel of the 80s, for me anyway, and everything about the 80s. The music video, the song, everything. And the comments are like by people in their 20s and teens even, gosh, could you imagine being alive in the 80s? It must have been magical. Well, I was there and it was magical. And so even we've in that I fucking love science cartoon was completely incorrect because it doesn't work anymore. It was only the in the past the older ones who said that. When you have 12 and 13 year olds going, I wish I was born in the 70s because I could experience the 80s and 90s, whatever, and the only music I listen to is like from the 70s and 80s, you have a real problem. You have a inbuilt, it's almost a Wetiko or an egregore that's developing among intelligent youth of a genuine fear of the future. This may well be the foreshadowing of a Carrington event. This may well be that, or a coronal mass ejection, or, that consciousness of the youth reaches a certain point where instead of creating a new youth movement, they reset the world. Me and like I talk about this all the time and make films about it, is that I genuinely believe that the ancient aliens thing is a psyop to stop normies from finding out that there was once complex advanced civilizations by humans in the past, and something like a Carrington event or something like a coronal mass ejection reset them, and all that's left, everything decayed except some incredible stonework, and because everything does decay, even plastics, and excuse me, and I wonder before that happened, 12,000 years ago, what they call the Atlantean event, the Lemurian event, whatever you want to call it, if young people then stopped liking the way the world was going and wished they lived in the past like they do now. The sentient ones, of course, the more intelligent ones, the more sensitive ones. It's definitely sensitive people because it's just like the Call of Cthulhu. The young artist is sensitive. That's how he picks up on he makes the bas relief of Cthulhu under the sea. Through his dreams, he's more sensitive, and I think the intelligent youth are sensitive. So I'm meeting adults with young kids who are going, I wish the world would have something would happen in the world to shut down the internet, shut down the grid, and bring the world back 40 or 50 years. And yeah, I mean, can you blame them? Because they're all they're being offered is this WEF UN Silicon Valley Black Mirror horrorscape. That's all they're being offered. And this is, the whole, the flat earthers say, well, no one's allowed in Antarctica, that proves it doesn't exist. No, my theory is that underneath the ice sheets of Antarctica will be the remnants of that society, that ancient society, and the technology is down under the ice sheets. And they've already found that. And they don't want everyone from the Darwinists to the Vatican, to all the religions, have a vested interest, as well as especially Silicon Valley. They would be horrified to think. I often think this is why Bill Gates wants to block out the sun. It's not really about climate change. It's really about he's terrified of a coronal massive ejection, bringing his world into nothing. And it ties in perfectly with the legends around Atlantis about the sons of light and the sons of whatever, one who wanted technology and one who wanted the spiritual world, and the technology ones destroyed the Atlantean world. And we have that today. This is the epitome of folklore and alternative folklore, as an alternative folklorist. And so that's really interesting. That I find that very, very interesting. And are we heading for that kind of reset? It's funny because right before, a few months before, about 6 months before, I think it was, the corona event happened, I made a video about the coronal mass ejection. And then the corona thing did take down the world, but it was taken down by the people who fear a real coronal mass ejection. It was almost like a self-harm. You notice that? That's what that was like. It was like the globalists were really self-harming themselves. Are they afraid? And how can I was looking at, that creature, Sam Bankman-Fried. He was celebrated by the financial world markets, particularly Wall Street and the Nasdaq, as the savior of Western finance. And his emails and has just been released, and he's an absolute simpleton. All he talks about is wanting to meet Katy Perry. It's like when Christian Morris goes on. Christian Morris talks about Leo Varadkar here in Ireland, the current regime boss, cartel regime boss, going to 10 Downing Street and writing letters because they see the set of Love Actually, and writing fan letters to Kylie Minogue as the Taoiseach on governmental stationery. This is what we're, and this, Sam Bankman-Fried, all these people thought he must be a genius because he doesn't wear shoes and he sleeps in the office on beanbags. That means he's a genius. Like they show us on Big Bang Theory, that kind of a thing. And he's an idiot, a simpleton, an absolute simpleton. And yet the greatest minds on earth were telling the leaders of the earth were saying that's the future. The Clintons and everything, that's the great person. And he only got there by being invited to the right parties. And he was obsessed with getting to parties where where he could get connected. And it wasn't because he was looking for power, it's because he wanted to meet celebrities and know them by first name. And it's just staggering. And these are the people that are ruling the world right now. Sam Bankman-Fried is only one of thousands in Silicon Valley with the same psychiatric issues and lack of intelligence and a lack of personality and wisdom that they all have. And they're the ones developing the Black Mirror future, and all the old fogies and the Klaus Schwabs and the rest of them are all looking at them going, they are the future for us. They're not. They're incredibly wrong about that too as well. And sentient people in society are picking up on this. Whether they're kids on music videos going, I wish I was born and lived through the 80s. to adults who were saying no, like me, who were saying no, it really, really was better in the past, uh, by a million miles better. And so, and the I fucking love science types, they think, oh, then that's just generational. No, it's not. We've never had it where the young people said that. We've had it where the older people, the middle-aged people like myself and above said that, but not the young teenagers. The young teenagers want to go back to the 80s because they know from seeing a music video or a TV show that instinctively it was better back then. It was much better. Life was better. That could be part of the wave function collapse as well. In fact, the wave function collapse could be all part of the part of a coronal reset as well. There's another chap came in and started talking about. I was saying, I was just jokingly saying, no, they're trying to put right the world. And he says, was it the Israeli-Palestinian thing? And I said, I'm not getting involved in that. And he looked at me like, not nasty or anything. He was, oh, really? And then he said, yeah, I agree, it's toxic. He said to me, it just does your head in if you get involved in it. Because that all that stuff robs you of the creative energy. You see people who get obsessed with that stuff either on one side or the other. They actually go into mental illness. They look like they're possessed, half of them, and then they declare war on people around them that don't agree with them 100%. It's incredibly toxic and incredibly self-destructive. And it's just like the ancient aliens thing being put out there to stop people from realizing there was another human beings had an advanced society in the past. The same thing without getting them obsessed with like Israel, Palestine, Russia, Ukraine, to get them obsessed with those stuff so they don't think about themselves, their own life, their own world, and to have them in a constant state of fear and anxiety about things they can change so they won't actually concentrate on things they can change. Because if people were allowed to think for themselves, suppose you had no TV news and media scaring people 24 hours 7. I guarantee you, if that didn't happen for a month, and by the end of the month, it'd be people with flaming torches and pitchforks going down to the BBC, CNN, Microsoft, Apple, all the tech giants, all the big pharma giants, and burn them to the ground. But the path, it's like the global, the psychopathic control grid requires global gaslighting to keep it going. And this is probably this is the folklore of the age, is that these are the people who are seeing through it more and more. Oh, they're absolute. I was talking to a friend the other day, a friend that I went to Sri Lanka with, and she was saying, "Yep, even in Sri Lanka, more and more people are seeing through it. They're realizing they don't know what the answer is, and that's important too, because you don't want to get bogged down saying it's absolutely this or it's absolutely that. It's just enough to know that we're being sold a lie, and well, how do I get out of it personally? How do I get my family out of it? Rather than examining or being obsessed with the minutiae of why and who specifically to blame. You can check it casually, but ultimately knowing the history of it won't get you out of it. You've got to work on yourself to get out of it. And so a lot of people, I wouldn't say they're waking up, but they're not as controlling them as well. And this has to be a great fear to them. They said the Great Awakening would be people, truthers have this thing that the Great Awakening will be people walking down to the government buildings with piano wire. It's not. The Great Awakening is 12-year-olds on YouTube watching a Bananarama video going, that's the world I want to live in. Take care. See you later.